Avoiding ultra-processed food is hurting your performance. Now that is a bold claim, but by the end of this video, you'll understand why it's not clickbait, because I'm going to explain what's happening in your body and why some foods that you've been told to avoid might actually help your performance if you use them correctly. Now, to be clear, I'm a registered sport nutritionist and absolutely a proponent of the food first approach. And for the general public, minimizing intake of ultra-processed food is very much a good idea. But runners aren't the general public. Picture this, you get back from a long run, you're feeling a bit tired, maybe a bit flat, and you grab some water, maybe some electrolytes, but you think, not really that hungry yet. So you sit down, have a shower, and get on with your day. But then suddenly, 2 or 3 hours later, you are starving. What you don't realize is this very common habit is actually costing your performance. Not just today, but in tomorrow's run as well. It's slowing recovery and blunting the adaptations that you're training for. Now, in this video, I'm going to explain physiologically what's happening in your body in the minutes and hours after the run, break down the sport nutrition principles that actually drive adaptation, and then make it practical, involving some solutions that might actually involve some ultra-processed food. And the properties that make some food ultra-processed can actually make them really useful tools for performance if used in the right time, under the right context. So this video is for you if you eat well, you eat clean, you do all the right things, but your energy levels have dropped and your performance has stalled. Let me show you a quick example of what happens when you get it right. This is one of my clients, Donna. Now we needed to increase Donna's carbohydrate intake in her pre-session breakfast without her feeling sluggish or too bloated. And yes, that meant adding some ultra-processed food. But the result, immediate energy lift and performance right at the end of a very hard session. Now remember, this video isn't just, trust me, I'm a professional. No, I'm going to walk you through the science so you can make informed decisions and stop accidentally holding back your performance. Let's get into it. So in that intro, I've claimed that delaying your refuel, which is the amount of carbohydrate in the meal that we would normally have soon after your session, delaying that by 3 hours or more is going to harm performance next day. Now you might be sat there thinking, but James, if I just get all the carbs in, have a bigger meal later, surely that's going to top up my muscle glycogen, I'll be fine. Well, a scientific paper by Diaz-Lara et al. 2024 actually looked to answer that question. So they had two groups. They had the same amount of carbohydrate between sessions. So they had hard, intense HIIT session, and then the following day at the same time, another hard, intense HIIT session. They had one where they ate carbohydrates in the hour after, as well as the 2 hours after, and then had the rest of the carbs coming in later. And in the second group, they had the same amount of total carbohydrate, but they delayed by 3 hours before starting that carb feeding. They tracked muscle glycogen stores, and then importantly, they tracked performance in that second session. Now what they found was that muscle glycogen stores increased the same amount. Interesting. However, performance in that second session was blunted when the delay occurred. So really what this suggests is we've got this golden hour within the hour after particularly to get carbohydrate in. And even though it will rise muscle glycogen and the molecular response in the same way, it will impact performance the next day. So hopefully now I've got your buy-in, we're going to get into the more practical side of this. First, we need to look at the sport nutrition guidelines on how to recover optimally in that golden hour window after your run. So what the guidelines say is to have between 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram body weight carbohydrate in a meal or snack. If that is from slightly faster releasing carbs, all the better. It's going to give you a bigger insulin response. It's going to drive that storage. Now the difficulty arises when, James, I just don't want to eat straight after exercise. Why is that? Well, after exercise, exercise suppresses ghrelin. Ghrelin is your acute appetite hormone. So normally when ghrelin's high, we feel hungry, potentially hangry. However, exercise brings that down. So we just sort of don't really want to eat post-exercise. That's frustrating because the guidelines are saying, hey, this is a time when we need to eat a large amount of carbohydrate so that we can get that performance. Another reason that you don't want to eat is not just hormonally with leptin and ghrelin, but also your nervous system. So when you're going for a run, particularly if it's high intensity, your body doesn't know that you're not being chased by a bear. So it's in its fight or flight, it's go, go, go system. That go, go, go system is our fight or flight, and that is the complete opposite system to the rest and digest. So instead of it being the sympathetic system, we want the rest and digest, we want the parasympathetic system. Now it's going to take a little bit of time to unwind from the sympathetic, the go, 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 to the parasympathetic. Again, that's frustrating because that's the time when we need to eat. So really, your body is not cueing you for good digestion, and it's also not guiding you towards wanting to eat then. how do we overcome this? Well, if only there was some food that has been designed to encourage us to eat when we're not really hungry. That tastes so good, we want to eat it even though we don't really have hunger cues right now. Enter ultra-processed food. The properties of UPF that make these foods ultra-processed in their nature, the fact that they're very soft, that they require little chewing, that they're very easy to digest and therefore eat large amounts of very quickly, because in essence they've also got added additives that again make them hyper palatable, so they make us more inclined to want to eat more of them than maybe we should. All of these properties make them perfect for us to eat in this refuel window when we don't necessarily want to eat. James, ultra processed food, they're not very nutrient dense, they're going to spike my blood glucose and my insulin. But actually, let's look at that. Not very nutrient dense, that is fair. However, what I've found with clients is that by focusing on this refuel, actually hunger levels later in the day significantly come down. So when some of these foods might then sneak in later, that doesn't actually happen. And we end up being able to make more informed, nutritious decisions later on. The fact that they drive and spike blood glucose and then spike insulin, well, that's actually a good thing too in this refuel window, because you've just depleted your muscle glycogen, your petrol tank, had a big wallop of carbohydrate coming in through ultra processed foods that has given an insulin spike. But remember, insulin is our storage hormone. So it's now going to be sending a big signal to store that carbohydrate back in our muscle. So that's going to be a good thing in this moment. So post run, if you don't want to eat, I would recommend trying something small and ultra processed. Maybe we look for something like a kid's cereal, some Cocoa Pops or Frosted Flakes. It's going to be very easy to get a lot of carbohydrate in without actually struggling to digest it. Therefore, you're not going to feel overly bloated, stuffed. You'll be able to just get it in, get the benefit, and then have reduced hunger through the rest of the day too, as well as improving performance in tomorrow's session. Personally, I love a hot cross bun. I think also because of the fact that you don't have to chew them that much, they're a great vehicle for extra toppings, so you can put some nice jam or honey on there to again lift the carbohydrate content up. I have 2 of those after a really hard run as my immediate refuel. Then I go and shower up. I would then have my more slow releasing, higher quality meals. So I'd have a sort of second breakfast and then a high quality lunch too. Now, some context. You don't solely have to use UPF in your refuel. In fact, fruit works particularly well here, especially tropical fruit, because it's going to be quite carbohydrate and sugar dense. I often recommend smoothies to clients to really hit their carbohydrate total in this refuel window, especially if they don't want to eat. Why? Because we've got the high carb content from the fruit, but also by blending it, you are in essence processing that fruit, making it easier to digest. So we're then getting a lot of the qualities of UPF, easy to digest, lots of fast releasing carbohydrate, but we've got something that is then a lot more nutrient rich. If you're finding it hard though to hit 1 gram per kilogram body weight just from a smoothie, consider adding some oats or maybe even a big squirt of honey to it. Because remember, we're looking for sugar delivery systems here. Now, do I feel conflicted about recommending a load of ultra processed food to you? Well, no, because I'm also going to give you the advice that in your meals outside of this refueling window, I want you to double down on high fiber, high quality ingredients. That means you're going to get the best of both worlds. You're going to have a diet that's primarily based on low GI, so you get the longevity benefits, you get stable blood glucose and all the rest of it, but also you're going to be performing and adapting and recovering optimally by nailing this refuel window. Now, don't forget that these ultra processed foods might also have their place immediately before a session. So if you're currently having a big bowl of porridge and trying to get out the door and then really feeling it a bit, or you're not able to eat all of your porridge and then go for a run, and you end up having a little bit and then struggling in your session, potentially try swapping that for some UPF, because it's going to clear your stomach more quickly, just like it did with Donna, and enable her or you to actually hit higher performance in the latter half of your session. So I hope you found this video helpful. For more sport nutrition tips, consider subscribing to my channel. If you like this one, show me, drop a like, and I'll see you in the next one.